Programa Universitario de Estudios sobre Asia y África, UNAM, conectando Asia y África con América Latina.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are watching us. The National Autonomous University of Mexico, an university program on studies of Asia and Africa, welcomes all of you to our set of conversatories about the March 8th, Feminism in the Global South, Challenges for the Future. Today, I would like to present our conversation with the Ambassador of South Africa in Mexico. For that end, Dr. Ana Maria Alvarez will be moderating today. Professor Ana Maria Alvarez, welcome to our conversatory today. And I would like to share with all of you some of her biodata. She's an economist from the Universidad Católica Andrés Bello, UCAD, Venezuela, and holds a PhD in international economics from the University Paris I. Her areas of expertise are trade, finance, and development, trade negotiations, South-South cooperation, regional integration, the role of development banks in financing and cooperation, competition law, and consumer protection law. Between 1975 and 1991, she worked as an economist at the Central Bank of Venezuela and for the Latin American Economic System, CELA. From 1991 to 2015, she worked at United Nations Conference on Trade and Development on issues such as globalization and development, economic cooperation among developing countries, international trade and competition, and consumer law and policy. At UNCAD, she launched and managed the first phase of COMPAL, a project on competition and consumer protection in Latin America with the support of the State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, SECO, Switzerland, and the research project on trade and competition with the support of IDRC Canada. She coordinated the contribution to Aid for Trade and the global network of import and export banks and developed finance institutions. She currently continues her research and academic activities, working with United Nations agencies and academic institutions in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. She is a director of the United Nations Federal Credit Union for United Nations staff and their families. So, without any further comment, please let's start our conversatory.
What do women need to become a diplomat in your country, and or what is the percentage of women participating in the diplomatic service that's in your country? Okay, please go ahead. We listen to you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for inviting me. Before I respond to your question, I just would like to mention that we have just completed 30 years of our relations with Mexico.
Wonderful.
And we're very proud of the relation with Mexico because prior to the 30 years, we didn't have democracy, and Mexico supported sanctions against South Africa during the apartheid era. So we are very proud to be friends with Mexico. And you will know that Nelson Mandela, whom you say you love very much, came to Mexico in 1991 to say thank you to the Mexicans for the role that they played in helping us achieve democracy. And we know that there are 3 statues, busts of Mandela, Nelson Mandela, in Mexico. So answering your question, what women need to become diplomats and ambassadors, the first thing you would need top security clearance, which means your country has to clear you so that you are not an embarrassment in the other country, and the other country has to accept you to say that, yes, we will receive Beryl Rose Sisulu as South Africa's ambassador to Mexico. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes in terms of clearing the people who you send to different countries. Previously, qualifications were not necessarily an issue or looked at too much, but diplomacy has advanced so much more. It has become intricate and complicated. And the fact that you have to promote your foreign policy, promote your country, and represent your head of state, it has become more and more important to be educated, to be knowledgeable and politically savvy. Diplomats have to represent their countries well and not be an embarrassment. So in terms of qualification, for career diplomats, you definitely need a tertiary qualification. People like doing international relations, but they do accept you even if you have other degrees. For ambassadors, you really are chosen in terms of your suitability. But as I say, the world is changing. You need to have some education. You need to be knowledgeable. You need to understand how the world works for you to be a successful diplomat. Because if you don't understand the changes, what is happening, what you need to say correctly, then you will be in trouble as a diplomat. In our department, we have a recruiting policy whereby young diplomats are recruited into our academy. We have a very successful academy where we recruit young people. They don't, unfortunately, all remain in the foreign service because there isn't enough space. So they recruit a certain number, and the lucky ones will remain and proceed with their careers as diplomats. So ambassadors supposed to be chosen from the diplomatic, from the department. There should be a ratio. I'm not sure how much the ratio gets adhered to, but off the top of my head, the ratio should be 70% career diplomats and 30% political appointees. Like me, I'm a political appointee. I'm not a career diplomat. My husband happens to be a career diplomat, but he's not an ambassador. So for the career diplomats, they look to going up the ladder. And sometimes they look at us as, standing in their way of becoming the ambassadors of the future. So countries normally do have political appointees. Most countries, they do have their political appointees. And it's the president's and the minister's prerogative to choose and put political appointees where they so wish. And I would assume that in more complicated countries, they would put maybe your former minister or whatever, somebody who is very politically savvy in the difficult countries. So you just need to study, you need to be assertive, and you need to be proud of working for your country, because you have to fly that flag very high. Yes. In terms of numbers, currently I think we have about 110 embassies. We used to have 120 something. We've just closed 11 embassies due to financial difficulties. Of the 110 embassies, we have 43 females who are heads of mission. And the 43, we have 37 are ambassadors and 6 are consul generals. A consul general runs a smaller mission. In the US, for example, we have an ambassador in Washington, and then in Los Angeles, we have a consul general, and we have another one in New York. So that is what consul generals do, but they are head of that mission where they are.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, I go ahead. I will go ahead. Thank you very much. It has been very clear, and thank you for speaking slowly. By the way, I know that you also have a representation to the United Nations in New York, no? You have a mission from South Africa. Okay, I'm going now to the second question. What are your challenges you have faced as an ambassador?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In the 15 years,
Yeah.
I've seen a big shift. However,
Mm-hmm.
one still sees and feels the bias.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when you are with your male staff, more often than not, hands are extended to greet the male colleague and address him as ambassador. So you come there and they look at you and they will say to the male colleague, "Good morning, ambassador," or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes spouses of male ambassadors feel threatened. And this can sometimes be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I experienced this in Norway, which was my first posting in 2009.
Yes.
Where we were only 6 female ambassadors and we had about 70 some odd men ambassadors. And we were going on a trip sponsored by the foreign ministry. And you would sit next to an ambassador, a male, you know, regarding him as your colleague. And the wife comes and says, "Oh, that's my seat next to my husband," you know, that kind of thing. So one learned that you needed to be cautious. You needed not to trample on the wife's toes, you know. So you started being very careful about how you speak to who you regard as your male colleague, you know, because sometimes it didn't go down well. And I've seen even where some female ambassadors, their spouses have also reacted in, you know, not so nice ways. I think for me, I've been fortunate in that my husband is a career diplomat. We do the same job. So I think he has a better understanding of what my role entails. And I don't think and don't hope that he feels threatened, you know, in any way because of my career. But you tend to feel this hesitancy around you all the time. But once you start addressing people and they realize that actually you know what you're talking about, and you know you are actually in control, then attitudes change and people start to respect you. However, not everyone, you know, it's different, because even in the workplace, in the environment, in your own embassy, with staff, it depends. We know that we come from a very hierarchical society, a male-dominated society in Mexico, the same as in South Africa. So one just has to know, how do you balance? I think it's about the balance that you need to create in order to do your work.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I agree in many ways, because I have also been I have also been a professional, okay, as a woman, and it has been also, we have been confronted to different experiences. I go to the second part of the questions. According to you, do women diplomats make decisions, negotiate, and exercise leadership differently compared to men?
Thank you. About decisions, I think women can sometimes make better decisions than men because of the difference between making and taking decisions. Women tend to analyze the pros and cons of taking any decision, whereas I think men, on the other hand, can take faster decisions but less analyzed decisions. They are usually driven by their reactions to the surrounding circumstances and want to do things faster.
Okay. Okay, well, I think I agree with you in a way, and also because we can do many things at the same time. Okay,
Multi-skilled.
so, this is incredible, and I am sure that we have to honor women who have been working, helping their kids, raising their kids, and also, becoming leader. So I want to go to another question. How, and taking into consideration your experience as a negotiator, as a leader, and as a professional in general with the family, what can you, advise girls who will be like to become ambassadors? Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to negotiating, yes, men tend to focus on getting the very best deals, whereas women will work on avoiding an impasse. Men tend to use more direct language, while women often reveal tentative and differential speech patterns. So for girls who want to become ambassadors and move into leadership, I would say to girls, get an education, aim high. Being an ambassador is seen as a prestigious role. You represent your head of state and your country. You meet and interact with people from all over the world and all walks of life. For me to inspire a young woman, I think I should be a good listener. I should have an open mind, and I should help that young woman setting attainable goals. Encourage her to visualize her goals and to reinforce the importance of positive life skills such as working hard, persistence, and very important, a positive attitude and taking responsibility. She has to be realistic about challenges. You also need to know your country's foreign policy very well. And you have to read all the time because you have to stay updated with what is happening in the world. You need to know the world politics, which change every moment, every day. And I would need to encourage that young woman to be assertive and for her to understand that it is not all pomp and ceremony being an ambassador. It can be lonely. You have to make many sacrifices. You have to answer hard questions. I have been receiving the media from all angles at the moment, asking me, interviewing me, and asking me why South Africa has taken Israel to the International Criminal Court of Justice, the Court of Justice. So I've been answering those questions left, right, and center. So you have to be up to date. You have to understand the politics. And you have to be very savvy because your responses should not be guided by your emotions. You need to keep your emotions aside. You need to deal with the hard questions and answer them as frankly as you can. And you need to be realistic that not everybody will be satisfied with the answers that you give. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I also have just a bit, it has been very interesting. And I wanted to know that in your career as an ambassador, I always listen to, colleagues who are in Geneva, because there are many, we have lots of diplomats here. And when we are in meetings, they say, oh, I have to talk to my local government. In few words, I have to consult my capital. So this relation between ambassador and capital, what experience have you had so far? And what can you, say about what has, if you have few words about that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think with us and capital, we can get frustrated sometimes, but in my instance, our foreign ministry, we have a very able and capable minister, and we have our public diplomacy is very active, and I can at any time pick up the phone and speak to the Deputy Director General and say, I have this question. I'm not sure. What should I say? But they are also continuously issuing us with alerts, to say, this is happening, this is the response. So I think we are updated. We have a very active public diplomacy section. They have Twitter, they have all sorts of social media. So at any time, I don't feel threatened. I know that even if I have to, I can call my minister at midnight and say, Minister, I have a predicament, So I think I don't find it that difficult, maybe with maturity also. But I think what is important is that you need to keep that channel open all the time. It needs to be a 24/7 channel, because you need to be able to speak to the right people at that moment when you are in stress or when you are unsure. You need to be able to reach that person at any time. And I know that our minister, our director general, and our senior staff, you can at any time call them on their mobile phones. They will answer you. So I have not found it a difficult thing. And they are constantly sending us publications to say, this is the update for this is the update for now. So we are continuously receiving. That's why I say you have to read, and read a lot. There's a lot of reading to do in my job. If you want to be on top of the ball, you have to continuously read. She's muted. You are muted.
Thank you very much. I am going just to summarize a little bit. I have been very much impressed by you. And believe me that I have been very close to your country and continue to be close to your country. And then I took very clearly what you mentioned about those politically appointed and those career people who go to and become ambassadors. I have seen so much of that around, because of course we have also representations from different parts of the world in Geneva, as you know. And also it was very interesting to know about the percentages of female women becoming ambassadors. And more than that, I wanted to say that I am very much impressed also by your academy, diplomatic academy. This is extremely important, And I suppose that you also, promote, exchange of experiences with other diplomatic academies and everything, as we do here in the diplomatic environment, And concerning what you mentioned about negotiations, leadership, and what you have learned, I agree with you that there is a need to be extremely prudent, particularly when you are an ambassador. You have to be ready to answer to different questions, to different situations, no? And also to, in front of, for example, in the case of organizations located in Geneva, there are a few groups that meet regularly, the African group, the Latin American group, the Asian group, and other mini groups also that exist here. And I know that is also another experience you have. And I'm extremely impressed with you, and I hope I could meet you personally one day if you come to Geneva. I wanted to ask you if you have a last, word, last, message for people who are going to listen to this registration, particularly at the University of Mexico, the Program of Africa and Asia, and also elsewhere. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think my message would be that because the world is changing, countries are looking for different allies. And we are looking at Mexico, Latin America. As you know, I'm also accredited to the 6 other countries, Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala. And so we are looking to Latin America to say, let us strengthen our ties. Let us get better at knowing each other. But I think importantly, what I've seen is that there's so much similarity between Mexicans and Africans. The culture, the love for music, the colorfulness, the cuisine, it's so African. I was asking the Mexican ambassador in South Africa 3-4 weeks ago. I said, she's been in South Africa for 1 year. And I said to her, she's also a woman. And I said, how is South Africa? And her response was, I'm at home. And I feel at home in Mexico. I said to her, likewise, I feel at home in Mexico. I feel that there's so much that we have in common, that we can build a better world together. And the nature of Mexicans also is such a nature that resonates well with me. You meet a person, it's buenos dias, buenas tardes. You don't know the person, you get a smile, which is what happens in South Africa. It doesn't happen in Europe, for example. You just pass each other as if you don't exist. So I think that homeliness, that friendliness is something that we should link up and tie onto arts, culture. We are so good at those things. So there's so much that we can actually come together with, build up and work on to become better. But also looking at things like climate. We have a different climate. So in terms of exporting fruit, vegetables, I know it's far, but distance is relevant today. It's irrelevant. If we can look at, what do we give when you don't have, and what do you give us when you don't have? Like now, we were asked by Mexico, we have a big supply needed of avocados in China. We can't meet the demand, and our seasons are different. Can South Africa come in? And we do this together. So it's those kind of things that we need to look at, these collaborations. What can we do better together? And as I say, we are looking for allies who are allies you can trust, who we are more comfortable with because of the changing world. And we need to move with the changes. And I think we are ready for change. And I think Mexico is also ready for change. But also, I just think our relations speak for themselves.
I am really, I want to thank you for this conversation. It has been very pleased to listen to you. You have been speaking very clearly. And I think I am going to, I will, convey this message to the program, which is I happen to be, collaborator from the academic point of view. Okay, because I am retired from the United Nations, but precisely UNTAD, so where I work as many years, no? From my side, well, thank you on behalf of the University Program of Asia and Africa from the University of Mexico. It's a country that I also like very much, and I'm pretty sure that you are going to enjoy very much your stay there. Surely you will also have the opportunity to meet the Central American countries, which is also very pleasant to us. And thank you to your team. I want to end this conversation saying to you that I always listen to the national anthem, which is in 4 languages. If I understand, yes. Zulu, English, Afrikaans, and everything.
Correct.
That's incredible, no? I cannot listen to that. I only understand the English part. but it's a very nice music, no? Okay. Well, so have a very nice day, and I will, from my side, I say thank you. I'm pretty sure that all students from the UNAM University and the program, particularly women, will enjoy very much listening to you. Okay?
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you to UNAM for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Podcast dirigido y producido por el Programa Universitario de Estudios sobre Asia y África de la UNAM. Dirección académica, Alicia Girón. Dirección ejecutiva y técnica, José Luis Maya. Producción técnica, Gabriela Gallegos. Las opiniones expresadas por los autores no necesariamente reflejan la postura de este podcast.